Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first, we want to acknowledge our partners, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports, the Florida Coaches Coalition, and We Coach. You've heard me say many times, these are four great organizations. You should really add them to your network. And now, don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for just 3 minutes. We're going to give our sponsors their shout out. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director. You should be using them too. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Snap Mobile for their support. Are you tired of spending hours and hours with fundraisers that take too much time and give you little or no return? Stop right here. Go to snapraise.com/EDAD. SnapRaise, hands down, the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with great success. Coaches loved it, parents loved it. What's most important, it works. Go to snapraise.com/EDAD. You'll find a lot of other powerful tools like Snap Manage, Snap Store. They're all designed to help you do your job better. You're also automatically entered into a $1,500 drawing on your next SnapRaise fundraiser. That's snapraise.com/EDAD. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Make sure you mention this podcast. It's a great way to showcase your school's proudest moments and your top role models. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We want to say thanks to Gipper, the official social media graphic solution for the Educational AD Podcast. If you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to show you how to create world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. It's a great way to promote your athletes, celebrate your teams, and it's used and trusted by over 3,000 athletic programs across the country. It's professional graphic design made simple. That's Gipper.com. Make sure you mention the podcast. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more support, more security, and more customization. Hometown Ticketing is here to make the best online ticketing solution for you. That's hometownticketing.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that helped them coach our kids at their highest level. At Huddle, we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule a live web demo to see their scoreboards and their score tables in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. It's tremendously versatile, and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out their great products today. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Go to homecampus.com. It's the official high school and state association management platform for us. It's also your one-stop for things like scheduling, student-athlete eligibility and clearance, coaches tracking, and a whole lot more. As an athletic director, I used Home Campus every single day. The platform was great, and their staff was great as well. To get started, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Athletic directors already hear from the complainers. Athletic surveys will connect you to those complainers. They'll also connect you to the 98% of your parents and student athletes that support your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. Let them show you how they can take your program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to one of our favorite states today, Oklahoma, and we're going to be visiting with Courtne St. Clair. Courtne is a certified athletic administrator, and she's the director of athletics at Catoosa High School in Oklahoma. Courtne and I connected a while back, but we're finally getting this episode going. Courtne St. Clair, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, we've gone to Oklahoma a number of times. You and I were talking about some mutual connections, but this is your show, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up, maybe take us up through your own high school and college years, and then we'll take a break and then come back and hear more about your career. But what's the Courtne St. Clair origin story?
Okay, well, I was born in Southern California, and then my parents made the quick trip to Oklahoma where my dad's family resided, and I've been here ever since. I say I was born in California, but it was only for about a year. So I only spent a year there, and the rest of my upbringing was in Southern Oklahoma by way of Duncan, Oklahoma, which is about an hour and a half south of Oklahoma City. I graduated there in 2007. From there, I went to Seminole State College on a softball scholarship. I played there for 2 years, made it to the Junior College Women's World Series and finished third. We like to hang our hat on that. From there, I went to Southeastern Oklahoma State University, which is in Durant, Oklahoma, where I spent 2 years there as a player. And then I spent a year there as a graduate assistant, became their first assistant, and then started my career after that. So that's my brief bio. I got married last year in 22 and had my first child about 9 weeks ago. Little boy, his name's Coulter.
All right. Well, congratulations on that. And we know that he has a very famous birth date. So that's kind of exciting. I want to go back to your high school days. Growing up, Oklahoma, was it, small town? Was it a big high school? You mentioned softball was your sport. Did you do any other sports, or were you just focusing on softball?
I was a 3-sport athlete. I played softball, rolled into basketball, and then rolled into soccer. Duncan is a 5A, which if you're familiar with Oklahoma, I graduated with around 250 students in my graduating class. So it wasn't super big, but it wasn't super small. Where we were at, we were kind of the hub. And then there's a bunch of smaller schools around us that are, graduating 30, 40, 50 kids in their class. Softball was my main focus, though, throughout those years.
Now, obviously, you had great success at the college level as well. Looking back, and as athletic directors, we always, I think most of us do, we always preach, the multi-sport experience. Do you see, what are some things that you remember from your high school playing experience with 3 sports that helped you later on as a college athlete? Anything stick out for you?
It taught me how to be coachable, right? You're going to have when you're a multi-sport athlete, you've got 3 different voices, so to speak, 3 different head coaches that you hear from. So when you make that jump to college, you're going to have the same amount of coaches, but in one college program. So for me, it helped me to be able to learn different types of coaching styles all within one program, and how to adapt and work through those times at practices or at games and bring that to the college level.
Okay. And I know each situation is different. As an athletic director now, if you have a student athlete, or sometimes it's actually their parents, will come in and they say, our son or daughter, just wants to focus on, this particular sport. What sort of conversations do you have with them about that?
Well, I first want to find out the why. What's driving you to have your kid just be a sports specific student. And then once they tell that to me, I kind of give them some examples of, obviously, your most famous people as Tom Brady or Jalen Hurts, all these guys that played multiple sports. And then I talk about myself and being a multi-sport athlete. And then I talk about some of the successes of kids that their parents and them had similar situations where, we just wanted to be a single sport athlete. Their senior year, we got them to do another sport, and how they come back to us and say, I really wish that I would have done more than one sport. I like to talk about, basketball is a good one, the running and the jumping. You learn all of that and you do it a certain way during basketball. But if you go into track or you play football or you do a different sport, you're using those same muscles. You're just utilizing them in a different way. And so for me, I feel like you become more in tune with your body and how you can manipulate it to do the things that you want when you perform it in a different way, whether you're hitting a softball or baseball or you're shooting a jump shot. They're all the same movements, the same motions. You're just utilizing them differently.
I really love to hear those types of stories. There's several that I could share. The one I always do, we had a gal at a school years ago. I was also a track coach, football and track. We had a gal, she was an elite volleyball player. She played for our high school team, but then played club, all year long. Her senior year, she came out and ran track for us. She high jumped, she ran the hurdles, ran the relay, and she went on to play college volleyball. But she will still say, this is years later now on Facebook, that the most fun she ever had was that 1 year of being on the track team with us. And those are the types of experiences I think that as ADs and as coaches that we're trying to create. If they go into college, that's great, absolutely. But the vast majority of our kids, they're going to be high school student athletes, and that's it. So let's try to make that experience as good as possible. Very cool stuff. We're going to go and take our first break. Our guest today is Courtne St. Clair. And she's a certified athletic administrator, and she's the director of athletics. I want to get this right, at Catoosa High School, and that's in Catoosa, Oklahoma. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back. We want to thank our friends at Snap Mobile for their support. Are you tired of spending hours and hours with fundraisers that take too much time and have little or no return? Stop right here and go to snapraise.com/EDAD. SnapRaise, hands down, the best fundraiser out there. We used it at our school, tremendous success. The coaches loved it, the parents loved it, and what's most important, it works. They even have a program where they will give you your funding before you actually start your fundraiser. At snapraise.com, you'll also find a lot of other platforms like Snap Store, Snap Manage, Snap Connect that help you do your job better and easier. Go to snapraise.com, check out their entire suite of platforms, and you're automatically entered into a $1,500 drawing on your next SnapRaise fundraiser. That's snapraise.com. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. It's a great way to show off your school's diverse history, your proudest moments, and your top role models. Mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Once again, our guest is Courtne St. Clair. She's a CAA. She's the Director of Athletics at Catoosa High School in Oklahoma. Courtne, you took us up through your college, playing days. Talk a little bit about your journey as a teacher, as a coach, as an athletic director. Very few of us get to start out with our dream job, although you might already be there. But what was the process? How did you end up presently at Catoosa?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was at Southeastern, when I finished playing, my roommate and I, my best friend to this day, we were actually approached by our head coach. He had 2 GA positions available. He offered those to us if we wanted to stay on, for 2 years. And that would help us get our master's degree. You're familiar with that. They paid for all of our tuition. And so I figured, what the heck, might as well. So we stayed on for 2 years. I got my master's degree in athletic administration. And my best friend Lindsay went off to got her first head job in Texas at a small school. And Southeastern had just opened up their first assistant softball position. And so I applied for that. It was my first big kid job. They gave it to me, and that's how I spent my first 2 years at Southeastern. Spent a lot of time on the road. I taught a couple of classes, low level health and nutrition, exercise stuff. from there, I wanted to be a head coach, but I didn't want to leave the college realm. And one day I was just playing on the internet and I saw Norman High School had a head fast pitch and slow pitch position available. I thought I'd throw my name in the hat just to see what would happen. And I applied and I ended up getting a phone call and interviewed there. And I was 25 when I took my first head coaching job at Norman High School. I don't know if you've ever interviewed TD O'Hara, the executive director from Norman Public Schools. But he's the guy that gave me my first shot at being a head coach at 25. And I spent my next 3 years there. After talking with some friends, I have this master's degree. I figured maybe I should probably put it to work. And so I started, thinking about becoming just an assistant AD. And so I started doing things around Norman High School, helping with basketball games, helping with tournaments, and just kind of getting my feet wet to see if it was something that I was interested in. And then in 2018, one of my former coaches called and said Chickasha softball was looking for a head coach. And they had an assistant AD spot available. And he had let me know that he had thrown my name out there and that I was probably getting a phone call. And so they ended up coming up to my high school. They talked with me. And that year in 2018, I ended up in Chickasha as the assistant athletic director and head softball coach. And I spent 2 years there. And I really enjoyed the AD side of things. I love softball and I love coaching softball more than anything, but I was very intrigued by the AD side of stuff. And my fiance at the time had gotten relocated back up to Tulsa. And so I was wondering, I wonder if I could get a job up there. I knew nobody in the Tulsa area. So I applied at Coweta and I applied at Catoosa, and the superintendent at Catoosa took a gamble on me in 2020, right during COVID, right when it first started. And I landed that AD job at 30 years old, and I've been there ever since.
Listening to your background, you mentioned you became a head coach at 25, a college head coach. I became a head football coach, high school head football coach about that same age. And talking about myself, I say that I was a walking example of the expression, you don't know what you don't know. What was your experience looking back, becoming a head coach? And again, you weren't some, novice, you had some background, but, what was your experience, I guess, coming on board in a leadership position at a young age?
I learned that from my head coach when I was in college. I learned more of what not to do and how I wanted to do things versus how he did things. A lot of people, when they become head coaches, they try to take just what worked from their head coaches. And I don't always think that's the best way. I think you learn based off of, what you didn't like and how you would try to navigate your own. For me, the biggest thing was going from being good cop all the time to now you're a bad cop, right? You're setting the rules, you're setting the example. You're that stern force. When there are issues with parents, it comes straight to you. You don't just kind of sit in the meeting and sit back and kind of, wipe your eyebrows thinking, glad that's not me. So for me, the biggest learning deal was, navigating parents and, navigating how to lead a group of young women who are, anywhere from 14 to 18, and you're just 25 fresh out of school, so to speak.
Also want to follow up on, you became an athletic director. I think you mentioned that you were intrigued by the AD position. What about it intrigued you? Because, I remember I had no intention of becoming an AD until I became one. And then I just thought, this is the coolest thing in the world. What intrigued you about the AD position?
Being a leader over all programs. So when you're a head coach, you're the leader over your specific program, your coaches. I wanted to see what it would be like, to be over everybody's program, right? To be the one-stop shop to, the do's and the don'ts, and be able to help and being able to build those relationships with other kids outside of just your singular sport, getting to know football players and track kids and wrestlers, and being a part of all the programs and bringing kind of your spin or your flair of what you feel like an athletic department should be about. For me, I like to be relatable. I'm young, I'm a young female. I want to be in the hallways with the kids. I want to be at their practices. I want to practice with them up until you get hurt, or, you pull a hamstring and you realize you're just not as young as you thought you were. I wanted to see what that was like, and to see if I would be able to bring a group of people together for one common goal within one department.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. That global perspective, and you're still you have an impact on kids, but now you're impacting them, also indirectly through their coaches and helping those coaches, navigate their career. Very cool stuff. Thanks for sharing that. And geez, what hamstrings are you pulling at 30 years? Okay. Okay.
You would be
All
surprised.
right. We're going to go and take another break, but we're coming back with some more. Once again, our guest is Courtne St. Clair. She's a certified athletic administrator. She's the director of athletics at Catoosa High School, and that's in Catoosa, Oklahoma. Stay with us. We're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Gipper for their support of the podcast. Gipper is the official social media graphics solution for us. And if you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to show you how to start creating world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. Your kids are on social media, and if you're not celebrating your teams and promoting your athletes, you're really missing out on a great opportunity. Gipper's used and trusted by over 3,000 athletic programs, high schools, and colleges across the country. It's professional graphic design made simple. In fact, it's so simple, even I can use it. Go to Gipper.com, mention the podcast. Guess what? They'll give you a nice discount. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. If you go to hometownticketing.com, their team is going to show you how to set up and sell tickets online, not just for your athletic events, but for things like school plays, concerts, school dances, even graduation. And the best part, every school is assigned a dedicated client success manager that's going to provide hands-on support every step of the way. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. And we want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, and it was just great. But as an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that helped them coach our kids up to their highest level. At Huddle, we believe in sports, and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 8 million users. Turn your school into a Huddle school.
Hey, Jake. I was just looking at your background here of all your sponsors. We actually use Huddle as well, in all of our sports, and we are moving towards the tracking camera. That's something that we're actually doing this year to help with our football coaches, so you don't always have to have that kid film in practice. It'll free up another body. And one of my good friends is a snap guy, and he comes to our school and does snap for all of our programs as well. So 2 great sponsors you've got there.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And I can tell you, as a football coach, as I said in the shout out, I used Huddle for years, but I was really impressed. And I was really, I guess, relieved that it was such a great fit for all of our teams. We had the Huddle focus cameras, and particularly, I mean, football's football. It was great. But in the gym, our volleyball coach, our basketball coaches, they would literally be programming it with their cell phone and taping practice and doing all the uploads. It was just a great addition to our department. So I know you're going to love those programmable cameras. And for Snap, again, as an AD, you mentioned it. You don't have to be involved, and it
No,
works. The coaches like it, the parents like it. Our business office loved it. So
absolutely.
appreciate you giving those shout outs. Let's get back to you. Um, we always like to hear about the journey that athletic directors take regarding their state association and the national organization. Now, you're a CAA. That doesn't happen by accident. Share with our listeners, if you can, how you got involved at the state level and then also with the NIAAA.
Yeah, so here in Oklahoma, we do region meetings with our ADs, and I'm a part of the Northeastern Oklahoma Athletic Directors Association, and that's your big schools like Union, Jinx, Owasso, and all the surrounding schools in the Tulsa area. And after my first year, I started attending those meetings regularly, and all of the people that were putting them on had their CMAA or their CAA, and two people that you know very well, Stephanie Blackwell and Emily Barkley. They were two of them that were there and talking about our state association as far as the OIAAA. And so I stayed back after one of our meetings and kind of got some information from Stephanie on that and what that looked like. And so after it wasn't my first year, because that was my COVID year, and it was such a blur. I couldn't even, I don't remember it. But it was my second year as an AD here at Catoosa, and got with Stephanie. Like I said, I attended the national conference, and that's when I started taking my courses. And then with Stephanie being in on the educational side, she was able to let me know when some of the online classes were going. And so it took me a little over a year to get them done. But this past year at our state conference in June was when I took my CAA exam and passed, and got to be a part of that little elite group that I would like to think of.
No, absolutely. I'm putting you on the spot here, looking back at those LTI courses, those required courses to get your CAA. Is there one that really sticks out as, wow, this is a great course, or, wow, I didn't know that information? And any of those LTI courses stick out for you?
They all stick out in their own particular way, but the one that I remember having the biggest impact on me were the legal courses, those last two legal courses, just because, you think that you have yourself covered, with having your emergency action plans, or, having signage up or communicating. But after going through those courses, I've learned that you don't have enough coverage, and you need to make sure that you're always staying on top and having meetings regularly with your staff, with your coaches, with your administrators, on things that need to take place while we're hosting events. And then another deal, Title IX. Most people think Title IX is just, is there enough boy sports and enough girl sports to offset each other, right? Like that's just kind of the blanketed. And I learned that it's much more. It's way more in depth than just, the same number of participants or the same opportunities.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I don't have to tell you, it's about quality, offering the
Right.
highest quality that we can for, girls and boys sports. It's not just meeting a minimum, it's, making sure we do our very best. Great stuff. Great stuff. We'll do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, add you to their network, or just find out how you do things at Catoosa. And listeners, I think you got a great young resource here. What's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Email, I check it daily, if not hourly. I can give you my email here right now if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
It is CSTCLAIR at Catoosa, which is spelled CATOOSA .k12.ok.us.
And for our NIAAA listeners, Courtne's information is also on the NIAAA membership portal. So check it out there. We're going to take another break. I know that's shocking to our regular listeners, but we're coming back with some best practices. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Of course, we use it for home games, but we also used it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Their products are tremendously versatile, and their customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Home Campus. Go to homecampus.com. It's the official high school and state association management platform for us. It's also your one-stop platform for things like scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance, coach tracking, and a whole lot more. As a high school AD, I used Home Campus every day, and it was just great. To find out more and how you can get started with Home Campus, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. Welcome back, everyone. Courtney, one of the things we try to do with this podcast is the idea of sharing best practices. So, one more time, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some things that you do at your school with your kids, your coaches, your facilities that you're particularly proud of that you would consider best practices?
Yeah, great question. For me, when I took over the job at Catoosa in 2020, we didn't have a strength program established within the school throughout the day. So what that looked like was your softball team would do their strength training after practice or before practice, on their own, and volleyball would do theirs, and football would have their own, and on down the line. And so I sat with our principals one day and told them that I would like to bring a sports performance course to our course catalog at the high school. And that course would it would entail, strength and conditioning, endurance, and it would be built into the school day. So it would be during the first hour. We'd have a coach in there, and it would be for athletes only. And so our first year we did boys during first hour because they don't mind getting sweaty and stinky. They can shower pretty quick and head back to class. And we did girls sports performance sixth hour, which is right before our seventh hour athletic period. And that first year we had about 65 boys in there and 20 girls, which my girls' numbers weren't very good, but sometimes with young women, you have to convince them that this is going to be helpful for them. And then in year two, our numbers for boys jumped well over 100, and our girls are sitting at around 75 now. So I think if you can incorporate that into your school day, it will help your coaches in the long run because they're not having to take 45 minutes to an hour and a half before or after a practice gets started. They can just go straight into that. Another thing that I brought that I thought was very helpful, and I actually, rinse and repeat, took this from another school that I was at, was, we came up with individual program handbooks. And within that handbook, you develop your own mission and vision for your program that is within the walls of the athletic department's mission and vision. It outlines your player and parent expectations, what is appropriate behavior, what is not appropriate behavior. And then at the end of it, we have parents and student athletes alike sign it, and they turn that in, and we keep it, as a copy. So when it comes down to it, because, like I do, there's always going to be an upset parent that they don't like something that a coach has done, or, they kicked off my kid for, X, Y, and Z. And it's clearly in the handbook. It's just another one of those CYA for you and coaches. And when you have those meetings, you can refer to that handbook to kind of help maneuver those situations. And then our last one, social media, is having an athletic social media, because let's face it, that is the future, and it is here to stay. And so when you have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and I don't even know if it's called Twitter anymore. I think it's called X. So I don't want to say that incorrectly, but I started an athletic one for our district. And then I've asked each sport to have their own underneath that they can update players and parents on what's going on, because that's the fastest way to get communication out. And it's also a great way to share the positive that's coming from your school district. So wins, or, you've got community service, or a student athlete that won an award, or you have just a student. It doesn't have to necessarily be a student athlete. It can be a fan, it could be a parent, it could be a stakeholder. So those are the three best practices that I have found to make us a little more successful at Catoosa.
Yeah, I love them all. And I want to touch on the social media one that you mentioned. As I was retiring, I really think social media, let's say 3 years ago, was really starting to come in. But the concept of it, I think, was always there. And you hit it on the head. There's so many great stories that are going on at your school beyond, the wins or the losses that the community, even within your school, doesn't know about. And posting on social media is a great way to take control of the narrative about the school, about the athletic program. Because as you know, people, parents, they're going to talk about your program, whether you put anything out there or not. Why not give them something positive to talk about? this student athlete, the community service that you mentioned, the girls soccer team having a GPA that goes through the roof, all those
Yeah.
great stories. And it's so easy to do. And, we talked about some social media platforms to help with that. Very cool stuff. For the third time, I'm going to put you on the spot. Um, can you recall an instance where a kid, a coach, a parent, a community member reached out to you in response to a social media post, like, hey, I didn't know that, or hey, that was really cool. Anything come to mind in that area?
Um, there's been quite a few. We had our volleyball team had some great success, and we were able to share some of the. They actually do have a great GPA that they got awarded with this past year. But when we made it to regionals, and we posted some of their stories, and the graphics are kind of the it thing right now. If you can get a cool graphic going, and I had a grandmother. She called and left me a voicemail, and said that she had seen on Facebook that the volleyball team had made it to regionals, and she loves volleyball, and she's just she was just excited that we were able to post that for as she said, the world to see. And so I thought that was neat, because having a grandmother on there, just being able to follow social media as well is pretty cool, because that's probably wasn't something she's grown up with or had, in the past.
Oh, absolutely. And again, going back to Huddle, once you get those cameras in there, you can start streaming those games, and grandmas and everyone else can start watching them.
Yeah.
Very cool. Courtney, I'm so glad that we had some time to share today, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. Now, you're no stranger to the world of athletics, but we're going to take our final break. When we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 items in their toolbox. So let's go and hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor this segment. When we come back, we're going to find out what Courtne St. Clair is going to put into her new athletic director toolbox. Please stay with us. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment of the podcast. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They can create a custom survey for you and your department that's going to let you take the pulse of those groups, including people like teachers, even coaches, or community members. Athletic directors already hear back from the complainers, the folks that want to gripe about everything. Athletic Surveys will connect you with that group, but they'll also connect you with the 98% that supports your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to show you how you can take your athletic program from good to great. That's athleticsurveys.com. Make sure you check them out today. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today. It's been a great visit with Courtne St. Clair. She's a certified athletic administrator. She's the director of athletics at Catoosa High School, and that's in Catoosa, Oklahoma. She knows her way around the world of athletics, but right now I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new athletic director on the very first job, but I'm only going to let her put 3 things in the toolbox. So, Courtney, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
All right. Well, the first one is going to be organization. I think the key to success for any job, any sport, any career, whatever have you, is being organized. The one tool that I use more than anything, and people tease me about it constantly, and they tell me I have a graph for everything, and I have a chart and a Google sheet, is Google Drive. Google Drive will be your best friend. You can do anything on there. We make our schedules in a one-stop shop on there, facility request forms. We have contact information, all of our tournament information for the vast amount of tournaments that we host, including the state track meet, game day itineraries, bus schedules, you name it, we use it. And the great thing that I think about Google Drive is I can attach anybody that needs to know that information into that, whether it's a spreadsheet or it's a worksheet or a form. I can attach their email and they can see, live updates. So the first one is organization using Google Drive, or however, some people like to use folders still in a filing cabinet. So whatever works best for them. The next thing that I would say, it's not really a tool like Google Drive, but it's more, based around decision making and not making quick decisions. So as an AD, you're going to have 10 people come to you every day with a question, and they're going to want an answer right then. For me, my first year, I found that I would say yes or no very quickly. And then when I would think about the information that they gave me, hindsight, I would have to go back and say, hey, I think I made the wrong decision. Let's tail back and let's change some things. So for me, decision making, listen with the intent to understand. Don't just listen and think about the next thing you've got to go and try to hurry somebody out. Try to understand what they're asking of you. Gather as much information on the subject that you can, because you're not going to be a know-it-all in every subject. And then once you have that information, I like to gather input from other ADs, other colleagues, admin in my building, people that it might affect. What are your thoughts? Would you do something different? Would you add something to this? Would you take this away? And then once you have all that information, and this isn't, a 2 or 3 day process, this can be an hour and a half ordeal, make the best decision for the program as a whole. So when you have a program come and they have a need or a want, how is this going to impact the overall program? Is it going to be better, or is it just going to improve that one? So when it comes to decisions, don't make hasty, quick decisions. Really try to think and understand the question that they're asking. And then the last one, and I say it last because I want it to be remembered if you don't remember anything else that I've said today, is a work-life balance. It's easy to get caught up. Your phone will ring. I've had it ring as early as 5 o'clock in the morning and go until midnight. I think, you need to develop a good working relationship with your other admin in your building. So for me, I have an assistant AD and a dean of students. And then we have a high school principal and an assistant principal. And I've developed really great working relationships with them. And we've actually got it worked out to where, we only have to cover one event one night a week. So instead of the athletic director being gone 5 out of the 5 nights out of the week, at an event, now I'm only gone one. The high school principal's only gone one. And you're able to be at home with your family. And I think that is, it's important, because at the end of the day, your family is what you have. When you're done being an AD, somebody else will fill that role. So doing that, you've got to develop boundaries. My first year, I wish I would have had this in my toolbox, because I didn't develop boundaries. And I would take that phone call at 5 a.m. and I'd take that quote unquote emergency call at 10:30 at night. And it really was an emergency. It was just a question that probably could have waited until the next day. So developing boundaries within that work-life balance, I'm only going to answer the phone from 6 o'clock when we have athletes show up until 8 o'clock at night when athletes go home. If it's an emergency, you can call me, but if it's not, let's try to wait until the next day. And then get to know the people in your department personally. Get invested in their interests. I've got I say a newborn, he's 9 weeks old, but there's going to be some things that non-negotiables that I just can't miss. And, my assistant athletic director, he's got 3 boys, one's in band and 2 are in football. And there's going to be nights that he's got, a band concert and he's not going to miss. And so maybe I can pick up that night for him and he can pick up my night. So if you can, be invested in the people around you, it'll make your work relationships a lot easier and make that work-life balance go a long way. And then the last thing to go with that is I've developed a running admin event calendar, which I keep on my Google Drive for everyone to see. And I go through for the semester and I put in every game and event that we have. And then I have everybody sign up. And it's just a running log of who's covering what on what night. And if something can't work, we can go and switch it that way. Jake, you're not calling me and saying, hey, who's supposed to be covering basketball on Friday night? Is it me? Is it you? Is it Mitch? Who's covering it? They can just click, get on Google Drive and see. And if there needs to be a change, just make a phone call. So those are the three things that I would put into a toolbox: is organization, decision making, and the most important is your work-life balance.
Well, I love them all, and as you know, you were listing them in my categorization in the toolbox. They actually kind of fall in multiple categories. So I think you actually squeezed in about 5 or 6 tools there, which is great. And I love anytime somebody talks about that work-life balance. It just speaks volumes to me. I did an okay job, but I didn't do as good as I should have done. You know, my wife was career coach, career teacher. Our kids were all athletes. So many of those nights I was at the school, I was watching their game, but I was watching it as an AD.
Yep.
And then when we got home, sometimes I was still an AD taking those calls instead of saying, hey, this can wait till tomorrow. So I'm glad that you have found that tool at a young age and can continue to use it as you and your family continue to grow. Great stuff. Courtne, this has just been fantastic. I may have said it already, but I think your star is definitely rising in our profession. One of our listeners wants to reach out, add you to their network. What's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Through my email, and it is CSTCLAIR at Catoosa, which is CATOOSA .K12.OK.US.
Courtne St. Clair, thanks so much for spending time with us. All the best with the continuing school year. I know you got some big events coming up, and hopefully we're going to catch you down the road at one of our conferences.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Right back at you. For our listeners, we appreciate you. And we also upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. So come back next time for another great interview on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.